trophies and family first, where he'll be insulated from some of the things we've seen leading up to the pre-draft process that he's experienced through the media. Also, it's a team that understands they need to continue to build around him, but with the skill positions, having a DK Metcalf and at least right now a George Pickens, a Pat Freiermuth gives him an opportunity to distribute the football the way we watched him do at Colorado behind a bad offensive line. But the one thing that you see about Shedeur Sanders is he's even moved further back in some of these mock drafts. And so that tells me that some of the things the Shefties and the Mel Kipers and the Phil Yates are hearing is that Shedeur Sanders could slip. So the Steelers at 21 will be an extremely interesting pick.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point that RC just made, is the fact that Shedeur is dropping, but Pittsburgh does need a quarterback. Is that a good fit for Shedeur?
100%. And number one, I would say this. When you look at all these draft prospects and the ability to be drafted, it's not about what number you're drafted, but the situation that you're drafted into. Culture means everything. And what better culture for Shedeur Sanders than the Pittsburgh Steelers? You talk about only having 3 coaches since 1969 when you had Chuck Noll. Then you had Bill Cowher, and now Mike Tomlin Curley, who's the head coach of this football team. And RC just alluded to it. You look at the 2 wide receivers that they have, 2 number 1 physical specimens out wide on the outside. But then you have a guy that can be your security blanket in Pat Freiermuth. You have Jaylen Warren still. They have a young offensive line. They have really invested into that offensive line over the last few years. Those guys can grow together along with Shedeur Sanders, and I love Arthur Smith as a play caller, so I'm really looking forward to Shedeur. If he's there at 21, going to the Steelers.
It's like a game we could play. Rodgers, Shedeur, the field for the Steelers, which I think we'll play at a later date, not today. RC, what we do know is that Cam Ward expected to hear his name called first by Tennessee, but then Cleveland picks number 2. What should Cleveland do with that second pick?
Pick a unicorn. You know, like when you're a little girl, you dream of princesses, and when we're little boys, we look at you guys and say, okay, they want princesses, and also they want a unicorn, right? Because women want the world. You learn that once you get married. And so to me, that's exactly what the Cleveland Browns have an opportunity to do, right? They have an opportunity to draft a guy in Travis Hunter who is adept at making plays on the offensive side of the ball as he is on the defensive side of the ball. To me, the best ball skills in all of this draft, and someone who we already know is comfortable with putting in the work to excel at 2 separate positions. And if you're the Cleveland Browns, you're stacked defensively at the cornerback position, but to add him to that wide receiver room would be huge.
Very interesting analogy that RC just said. Cleveland Browns, they're the woman in this situation. They could either get Travis Hunter or they could get Abdul Carter. Who makes more sense, do you think, for Cleveland?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Travis Hunter, a guy that can play on the offensive side of the ball, and that's why I would start him off. You talk about being able to learn a playbook. That would be feasible for Travis Hunter to start out that way. But you talk about the body control, the ability to run routes. Natural ball catcher with his hands. You look at his pro day, he didn't use gloves. But then you could throw him on the opposite side of the defensive end and allow him to make plays. As you're seeing on the screen right now, he ran the end cut for the wide receiver. And to be able to have the skill set to know what a wide receiver is going to do because you play on that side of the ball as well is a big advantage for Travis Hunter. He's a generational talent. You cannot pass him up if you're the Browns at number 2.
It does not feel like this guy could get out up from number 1 or number 2. Yeah. Obviously not number 1, but number 2 because of what he can do on both sides of the ball. RC, picking at number 3 are the Giants. Options of taking either Abdul Carter, Hunter, a quarterback. What do you think would be New York's ideal move there?
Well, I think in our scenario, Travis Hunter is going to be gone. Yeah. So it's going to be Abdul Carter. Abdul Carter, along with Travis Hunter and a couple of other players, the Ashton Genties, the Will Campbells. These are the dudes you look at, the way that they play their position and where they stack up amongst their peers. This is a guy who is a top 5 pick, and no matter what draft he was a part of, the way that he was able to put pressure on the quarterback, the tackle for loss over 23 this season. But it's the pressure that he can apply simply based on his level of athleticism. I believe if you're the New York Giants, your hopes are that you get an Abdul Carter early on in this draft and you find a way to get a quarterback late that you can develop.
2 through and beyond, honestly, is so interesting when it comes to the NFL draft. Who would constitute a win for the Giants at number 3?
Abdul Carter, because we expect Travis Hunter to be gone. And Christine, you was with me on Countdown to College Game Day when I broke down his tape. You talk about the get off, the bend around the corner to arrive at the quarterback violently, but also force fumbles, and then he has the athleticism to drop in coverage as well. This young man is a monster. I cannot wait. He wears number 11 for Penn State for a reason. They have a rich history of guys at the linebacker pass rusher position being able to go high in the draft and also being able to have a lot of success at the NFL level.
Hey, and we know the Giants, they like guys from Penn State. Remember Saquon Barkley?
Yeah, exactly.
That all worked out really well.
Yep.
RC, the Patriots is a team we haven't talked a ton about. They got their franchise quarterback in Drake May via last year's draft, but they've got a lot of other needs. They pick at number 4. What's the best play for the Patriots?
And I'm not being a homer here, but the best play is to take Will Campbell from LSU. We're talking about a tackle that walked on to campus in Baton Rouge after coming from Shreveport and was an immediate starter, an immediate all-conference player, eventually an All-American. And you had the whole thing at the Combine. He has short arms. And my thing would be, well, go watch the film and see how many people those short arms choked out throughout his career at LSU. Drake May showed us last year that he could be an absolute dog. Now it's time to protect him.
All right, so Shay mentioned the fact that they already have their quarterback. They need guys to build around him, to protect him, to assist him. Who do you think is the best option there?
Well, RC, number 1, you're not being a homer. You're telling the truth. The proof is in the pudding. You take Will Campbell. I don't care how short his arms is. He played in the SEC. He showed that he can hold up. And the reason why you do it, Patriots quarterbacks last year collectively got sacked 52 times last season. You cannot allow that to happen once you know you have your franchise quarterback. You build that offensive line to allow that quarterback to throw the ball to Stephon Diggs, who they acquired in free agency, offensive lineman. It is no question about it.
Love it. We can't wait. Draft day, only a couple hours away, and then all these things that we're predicting will either be completely false or completely true. We will find out. RC,
I think we're right.
I think so too. Truthfully, I think
I'm right.
I
feel right.
You got a really long day there in Green Bay, buddy. So goodbye. We will see you later. Enjoy, Harry. We appreciate
Thank you guys.
as always. We are just getting started though here on SportsCenter. More from the NFL draft. So the Steelers actually trade up in the first round into Shedeur Sanders. One of our insiders says yes, that could potentially happen. Cowboys making oh gosh, this word trips me up every time. Substantive deal during the draft?
Substantive!
I don't know. We'll find out what the Cowboys are going to do. Adam Schefter obviously is going to be here with an update on that. And in the midst of the NFL draft, the Cowboys and everything going on, the NBA playoffs also happening. Jimmy Butler hurt in the Warriors' Game 2 loss against the Rockets. Shams is here with an update on his status going forward.
Okay, Shay, before we go to break, let's take a look at
draft day. Big question, the headliner, where is Shedeur Sanders going to hear his name called? Dan Orlowski has more on one of the top quarterbacks in this year's class.
It's Shedeur Sanders' time, and he was the only quarterback to finish in the top 5 in touchdown passes, passing yards, and completion percentage in 2024, and he excelled despite a suspect offensive line. Sanders dealt with absolute chaos up front and was sacked an FBS high 94 times in the last 2 seasons. Defenses brought the heat, but he responded with 14 touchdown passes against the blitz last season, 9 more than he had in 2023. Shedeur's game relies on rhythm and timing, and he's flawless with a clean pocket. He completed 82% of those passes on plays when he wasn't pressured last season. Best in the FBS and the only quarterback over 80%. He's at his best throwing receivers open with anticipation and led the FBS in completions to open targets in 2024. With solid offensive line play, Sanders will be the ultimate point guard in the NFL.
Thank you, Dio. All right, joining us from Green Bay is our NFL front office insider, Mike Tannenbaum. And Mike T, this is where you make your money. You got to put the GM hat back on and think about Shedeur Sanders. Been linked now a lot to the Steelers in Pittsburgh. They pick at 21. But if you are in love with a guy like Sanders, do you trade up to go get him?
Yes, Shay, you have to. I've been in a similar situation back in 2009 with the Jets where we needed a quarterback. Brett Favre had left us to go to the Vikings. And knowing that Aaron Rodgers at best is 50-50 playing, the Steelers have to be in a mode, Shay, of we have to go get him. Shedeur Sanders would be a material upgrade to any quarterback they've had since Ben Roethlisberger, as Dano just alluded to. So you want to take any of the guesswork, any of the variability out of the equation. Be proactive, go pay the bill, don't negotiate, even if it means getting up a third-round pick, maybe a future pick next year, because, again, they don't have a second-round pick, to go get Shedeur Sanders and not wait at 21.
We're all waiting to see where Sanders falls, obviously. But if there are trades involved that move up to go get him, that makes things even more interesting later on tonight in the draft. That is one of the quarterbacks we're keeping our eye on. There are quite a few, though. Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe, Tyler Shuck. Still waiting to hear their names called, obviously, later tonight. Let's go through all these guys and landing spots for them, and let's start with the Ole Miss product and Jackson Dart.
Okay, Shay, I love Jackson Dart to the New York Giants, trading up from pick number 34 to 26 with the Rams. I think he is a big, strong-arm quarterback who's a 3-year starter who I think could play really well in the Northeast under Brian Daboll. He's a better athlete than people realize. Similar, not as good as, but similar to Josh Allen. Brian Daboll had a lot of success with him, obviously in Buffalo. Next, Tyler Shugg, the quarterback from Louisville. I have him going pick 32 to the Cleveland Browns, actually flipping one pick with the Eagles. The reason that's so important is Tyler Shugg has had durability issues. If he has to sit, possibly you get that 5th-year option. So one spot is really important, and you could flip, hopefully for not a lot from Cleveland's standpoint, get Travis Hunter, then come back at the bottom first round, flip with Philly to get Tyler Shugg. And then lastly, Jalen Milroe, quarterback, University of Alabama. Shay, I like him, number 40 overall to the New Orleans Saints. Here's why. New head coach is Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore had success in Philadelphia with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Milroe's ceiling to me is very similar to Jalen Hurts. May not happen overnight, but the run-pass combination is very similar. Get him at 40. Maybe he sits a little bit for a year, but long-term, the Saints may get great value in the middle of the second round, and Kellen Moore gets his quarterback of the future.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Initially, we had thought that the Saints maybe would take Shedeur Sanders, but then maybe waiting to the second round and taking a guy like Milroe. Good comparison there.
I've attended 3 different colleges throughout my college journey. Father's name is Calvin Ward. Patrice Ward is my mother. Been there all my life. They've been to every one of my youth games since I got to middle school, high school. They missed 0 games of my college career. In Miami, it'll only be a 2-hour trip from Texas to Miami. They're playing, being at every NFL game, no matter we playing in the United States or we playing overseas. They enjoy watching me play. It means a lot to me to have them be a part of every game, be a part of my life every day. So I've been blessed. They've sacrificed financially for me. Time, just putting me in positions to showcase my skills. So, I'm always going to support them how they support me.